Tonight's plan is for us to definitely demystify the career fair, and for this year, the virtual career fair. And we're going to talk about some key components of not only Career Eco, in which the system is in, but also some tips on how to prepare and how to manage the entire process that is coming up in next week. We'll get into some practice, and then we'll be able to you'll be able to ask questions, and we'll be able to get some questions posted and or just shared with other corporate reps in the different breakout rooms that we'll be having tonight. Here are our corporate partners that you may see floating around in our Zoom platform today. And so we have Capital One, Cisco is here as well, Motiva is here, P&G. We have some representatives from Sandia National Laboratories. We have some representatives from Texas Instruments. So I'm super excited that they are here tonight, and they will definitely be helping out with the practice rounds and answering questions as we go throughout the event.
So before we get started, I just want to introduce myself and my co-chair. So my name is Sarah Reynolds. I'm a fourth-year mechanical engineering student and one of the directors of Expo this year.
And I'm Hills. A lot of you know me. I'm pretty active in this community. But just like, for those of you who don't know me, I'm a third-year architectural engineering student. And I am, along with Sarah, one of the co-directors.
Okay, so just to kind of get into what is Expo. Just from a purely factual basis, Expo is one of the largest student-run career fairs in the nation. So the key I want to focus on is student-run. So Hills plus our committee of 23 people have completely designed this event from the ground up. It's been a whirlwind. We started in February thinking, woohoo, we're going to have an in-person event. And then we went to, it's going to be in-person, maybe a virtual potential. And then by end of May, it was all going to be a virtual event. And so it's been a real whirlwind of planning, but we've all really enjoyed the process and think we've put together a really great result for y'all. So the event this year, as usual, is going to be a two-day event. It's going to be on September 9th and 10th, which this year are a Wednesday and a Thursday. And every year it attracts more than 200 employers. This year we have around 240, which is a really awesome turnout. So thank you to all the company reps that are coming. We truly appreciate your support. So a little more of an abstract approach to the question, what is Expo? That's something that we as the committee have had to really think a ton about over the course of planning the event, because we've had to really move away from all the associations that we make with in-person Expo. Whether that be just the fact that it's at the Frank Irwin Center, or for some of you students, maybe it's just collecting company swag, or even just a physical handshake. Those are things that went from being a certainty to an impossibility. And so what we tried to do in redesigning the event has really been to focus on the intangibles of Expo, what Expo is truly about. And sitting down and thinking about it, what we as a committee came to the conclusion was that Expo, first and foremost, it's an opportunity for students to meet recruiters, to learn about all the different opportunities that they can pursue with their degrees, and also find an internship, a co-op, or a full-time opportunity. And from the recruiter's perspective, it's also a great opportunity for them to connect with our first-class students and hopefully to fill open positions with great candidates. And so, as I said, as we've tried to move the event to a virtual platform, those are the things that we've really tried to focus on, to bring those intangibles that are always true of the in-person event to the virtual setting so that you can still have the same great experience. Next slide, please. So this is our website, expo.engineer.utexas.edu. This is really our main central resource for both students and recruiters for all key information about Expo. For students in particular, if you see the Expo tab, there's a little drop-down arrow, and if you click on the student, it'll take you to the student page. And we put on a lot of great resources there for you. First and foremost, you can also view a link that will take you to the list of employers that are attending the event, as well as a link to different Expo workshops that ECAC is hosting to try to help prepare y'all for the event. Additionally, our committee has curated a Expo FAQ guide for students. These were questions that the committee members, after going through training on the Career Eco platform, thought would be really helpful and thought you might have as well. And so we'd really encourage you to take a look at that, and hopefully that will help you in your preparation. Additionally, there is a report of bias survey link on that page. Michael, the director of ECAC, is going to talk about that a little more later, but just know that it's there. And finally, our email is on the footer of every single page. This is the email that Hills and I monitor all the time. So if you have any questions while you're going through the website, both recruiters and students, please feel free to email us. We're here to help you, both of you, and try to make this as great of an experience as possible for you. Next slide, please, and over to Hills.
All right, so the schedule on Tuesday, the night before the first day of Expo, sorry, my cat is all over my food. WEP is going to be hosting an industry meet and greet. I recommend y'all go out to this. You know, it's always nice to get your face out there, especially because if you're a first year, because, you know, you don't really have much experience, and it's nice to get like used to talking to recruiters and all of that good stuff. Then on Wednesday is the first day of the career fair. The career fair will be open, or I guess will be available from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Just make sure you check the chat times that each individual company has, because not every company is going to be available from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And that later that night, there's also going to be EOE hospitality, which same with the WEP evening with industry. I recommend y'all go to. It's a great way to meet recruiters in a little more casual way. And it also kind of helps loosen your nerves. Thursday, same thing, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Just make sure you check those chat times, because some companies will be there day one, day two, or day one or day two, day one and day two. Or, you know, you just never know. So make sure to check those chat times. And then later that evening, SWE is going to have their networking night as well. You can go to the next slide. So why should students go? This is a really big question. I've been giving everyone like a different answer depending on what exactly it is you've asked. But basically, you should go to get an internship. You should go to network, go to start getting your face out there. If you're a freshman, especially, go out there and show your face. That way, whenever you are looking for an internship the next year or 2 years later, the recruiter already knows your face and you already have like one foot in the door with that company. If you're an upperclassman, you need that industry experience. I feel like it's a great way to also start getting your feet into like networking and starting to get to know more about what industries your major in particular can lead you to in the future for a career. Sarah, feel free to chime in.
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, I'm a senior, so I've been to Expo quite a few times, and in my experience, just talking with the corporate reps is the best possible thing you can do. It's great even if you're not looking for anything, just to learn more about the companies and see whether or not you're interested. I think a lot of people take the approach that it's an interview. Their companies are interviewing me, but I think it's very much both ways. You're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you to try to figure out if that's some place that you could see yourself. And so from that perspective, it's beneficial no matter what point you're at.
Michael, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you so that you can explain to us how to get there in the virtual sense.
So all I did to get here, and I did put it in the chat as well, was type in tinyurl .com/UTECAC, and then that actually takes you to the ENGR direct page that we have. You may have to log into it if you're not already logged into the site. And then from here, you have two options. One is to enter our virtual lobby, which is like the virtual version of what the ECAC office is whenever you want to come in with questions and that kind of thing. The other one is our system. And so what I'm going to do is in telling you how to get to Expo virtually, I'm going to start with going into our system because that's the best way to do it. Also, I do, before I forget to say this, want to give another shout out to Sarah and Hillary for all of their hard work and their committee of 20+ students in putting on this Expo. I have done well over 20 fall expos in my history with the Cockrell School of Engineering. This is definitely the most unique one at this point because we have never had one that had to go virtual. And that meant a lot of shifting and turning and pivoting that Hillary and Sarah and their group had to do to prepare for all this. And ECAC worked closely with them as we transitioned to do this, but it was a lot for them to have to do to plan for the kind of fair that we're used to, and then suddenly have to pivot and go into planning for a career fair that we're not used to. So now what I'm going to do is show you the easiest way for all of you, since you are also making that adjustment in one way or the other, of how to get ready for the virtual career fair. So best way to do it is to go ahead and get into our system. So hopefully I've shown you that much how to get there. Once you log into our system, this is what you'll see. Now, if you're logging in for the very first time, like you've never logged into our system before, it will tell you to create a profile, which should not take too long. And once you do that, then you will see all of this wonderful information here. There's lots of information that you can do as far as like uploading resumes and other documents like that. We have events including workshops listed right here. And then something you'll want to definitely check out in the next few days, I think, is our pathways, which is under resources. So if you go to pathways and think of pathways as being like a very robust checklist that will help you with various things. So you notice we have a resume review checklist, we have a Fall Expo prep checklist, and other things. So in looking at the Fall Expo prep checklist, you can start this and get it going whenever you want. And you'll notice that there are several things that you can do before Expo. So if you do all these things before Expo, you'll be in much better shape to actually be ready to figure out what a career eco is and how do I get to that platform and what do I do next. So I'm going to just walk through a couple of these so that you see what's available to you. And this will hopefully help when you are from the student side trying to get into all this. So go to the question mark and it will always give you more details. So on this very first checklist item is already telling you how to get to Career Eco to register for day 1 of the fair and how to get to Career Eco to register for day 2 of the fair. One of the advisors in ECAC came up with actually a wonderful step-by-step guide to going to Career Eco, registering for the event, creating an account, registering for the events, etc. So just to give you a quick look at that. So if you wanted to go to the step-by-step guide, it'll literally show you where to go first, where to go second, how to create a new account, how to then go to the next page, how to do your account verification, everything step by step, just in case there's any questions, because even though it's not meant to be complicated, it's new, and I know people can get a little bit uncertain about these things. So to walk you through every single step, if you want to use a step-by-step guide, you could always do that. Otherwise, you can simply go to Career Eco and then go from there to start it out. So I think they put this in the chat at the beginning of our evening tonight. So some of you may have already got a chance to see this video, but this is a wonderful 4-minute video that basically gives you an idea of what the event is going to look like when you're doing it. So it gives you a little bit of also a tutorial quickly in registering for the event, but also just in checking out what an event like a virtual fair will look like. So definitely check out that as well. And then of course, there's all kinds of other information here. What I'm gonna do though, is I'm actually gonna make an attempt, bear with me, to jump over to Career Eco so that we can actually look and see what that looks like. So now I've clicked on the link. And at the moment, I've already gone in and I've already registered for these 2 events as a student. And so I'm okay there. I'm currently logged in, as you can see, just to kind of save that trouble, but you do want to create an individual account. Again, the pathways will talk you through that. Once you have created an account and you go to these and you actually register for these 2 events, they will be on your event list. And so there I'm registered for September 9th, registered for September 10th. I can look at the companies that are coming on September 9th. I can look at the ones on September 10th. I can get details on the event, etc. Notice that one of the things it's telling me here is that I have an urgent matter, it says. I should upload my resume. Now, I won't actually do that because I don't think the employers want to talk to me. But this will be something that you can do. Now, let's say, for example, maybe you're a student who really is just exploring. Maybe you haven't had a chance to put a resume together. Maybe you're a first-year student, you're just like, maybe I want to check it out, but I really don't want the pressure of like talking to people about my resume. It's not a requirement that you have to upload your resume. It just means that the employers won't have access to a resume, but you can still go to the event and you can still participate in terms of talking. But know that that's also there to kind of coach you through it. And then again, you have all this information available to you. I'm just going to go ahead and go to the day 2, and I'm going to check out the list of organizations. And notice most of the companies right here are already in the system. Not everybody who is registered in our system has made it over to CareerEco, but the vast majority of them already have, and the rest of them are coming. So this is all of them in alphabetical order. This is showing the majors that they're tending to look for, position types, and so forth. If you don't want to bother browsing through all of those companies, you can always use the search features right here to select based on your major, based on what kind of jobs you're looking for, etc. If you have interest in a company, and I'm just going to pick on 3M only because they're right at the top, but if you have interest in a company, you can click right there. The employer on the other end will see you as one of the candidates that has expressed interest in them, and that'll be a whole separate list for them. So that can be a good thing if you want to express your interest. There's nothing wrong with that, and that's about all that it does. Now you can also check on the company, click on the companies, and see information that they have uploaded to this point. So again, just picking on 3M because they're at the top. Here again, you can check this box if you want to, if you haven't already, to let them know you're interested. You can also look at all this information here that they may have included. And this is part of your before the event, think of this as before the event research on the different employers, just the kind of different information they have there. Now you'll also notice that this tab right here shows the chat schedule. So if you want to specifically look and see, okay, which companies have signed up for chats and when are they, you can see that, for example, 3M at the top, they have signed up for 9 to 12:30 and 1:30 to 5. So they're taking a break from 12:30 to 1:30 when they will not be in their room, which is the equivalent of being at their booth for the physical career fair. So you know that you can come anytime during these 2 times to jump into their room and talk to them. Geary and Fields is listing that they're going to be there from 9 to 5, etc. So really, this is good for you to be able to see, to start to plan when you want to try to talk to different companies. There's a feature where you can add it to your calendar just to make it a bit easier, etc. What I'm now going to try to do, what I'm going to attempt to do is actually jump into a chat room. This is only for the purpose, now of course, no chatting is going on right now because the event is not on, but chat rooms actually exist. I just want to show you this so that you have an idea of what that looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and just click on this one because I clicked on it once before and I know what I'm doing in that room, I think. So now I am actually pulling up the information for CACI. This again is kind of the same information that I pulled up for 3M, but now I can actually go to their chat room by clicking on this button. I can also go to their website because they have that published there and look at all this information as well, but I'm going to go jump into their chat room. And there I am. Now I did this earlier, so you can actually see that I have 2 chat rooms open. This particular organization actually has 2 rooms as opposed to most employers that'll have 1 room, which is perfectly fine. But they have 2 because they're in 2 different areas. So can you be in 2 different rooms at once? Yes, by doing this. Do I recommend it? With an abundance of caution, because you can only really be in 1 room at a time. And so if you're in this room right here, CACI Austin, and they're trying to chat with you over in this room, you might miss it if you're not careful. So you do need to be careful about going back and forth to any rooms, and don't get too crazy with it. But it can allow you to kind of jump in and out of rooms with some ease. So you also notice it's a little bit different. This one has a big logo right there, has a profile and files that you can click on. Same thing with this one. They don't have the logo, but they have a profile and files. So there'll be information up here that students can click on once you jump into the room. So let me kind of set the scene. I just entered this chat room, and this is what it looks like. You'll notice that there's links up here that I can play with. There's usually some kind of an opening message. And if you're entering into a room that already has people in it, you'll probably see some chatting that has been going on, and you'll be able to look and see what kind of chatting has been going on, what kinds of questions have been asked already, what they've answered, and so forth. You'll also notice over here, right now, there's no one that's listed as a moderator. This is where the employer representatives will be listed. So once you're actually in a live chat room, it'll have one or more people here to show that they're their employer reps. All of the students will be listed over here underneath where it says chat participants. So when you go into a room for the first time, you may want to look over and see, well, how many other people are in this room. That might give me an idea of how long it's going to be before I get a chance to maybe talk with somebody one-on-one. If there's like only a few people in here versus there are 20 people in here, that could make a difference as to when you're going to get individual attention. But while you're waiting for that individual attention, you again have the opportunity to look at anything that the employer has posted here. You have the opportunity to look at their chat history and see what questions have been asked. You are definitely welcome and encouraged to introduce yourself here, kind of similar to how you introduced yourself in this session when you were just coming in and saying hi to everybody. This is not the best place to do an elevator pitch, probably, because anything you type in the chat there, everybody gets to see. So it is good for general introduction and maybe questions that you're perfectly comfortable and asking in front of other people. Now, what else is here? So again, while you're kind of waiting to see what's going on, you can look at files that they may have. So you'll notice that they actually do have a file listed here. It's a flyer. You can download it if you want to and look at it while you're, again, waiting to talk to somebody. So this gives you some things to do while you're waiting in the chat room. When you're looking at the employers right there, you can also kind of see, if you cheat over here to where the chat icons are, I'm going to try to get to that. You'll notice that every user will have something next to them. Mine right now just shows that I'm online. It will show if they're typing a response or something. You can see where if an employer has this by their name, they're already in a private chat with somebody. This one underneath shows that they're available for private chat. So what does that mean? What that means is when you walk into this room, when you go into this room, you're going to see all this activity and all this group things going on. An employer may actually at some point ask you to do a private chat. Or if you've kind of been there for long enough and you've kind of seen how things are going and you're seeing how things are working, you could potentially, if the employer allows it, request a private chat with one of them. If you do engage in a private chat, what that then allows you to do is go into essentially another text box opens and allows you to have still a chat if you want to. But more importantly, it allows for both you and the employer to have your video screens on so that you can actually talk with one another as if you were standing in front of each other at Expo, but actually with more privacy, almost like a one-on-one interview, but I hesitate to call it an interview. It's really still more of a chance to talk with that person. So this is kind of how it works. You're going into a room instead of a booth. You have the ability to talk in a group, but also to talk one-on-one. So this is just to give you an idea of what it looks like. I really encourage you, though, to take advantage of our pathways, to go through all of this part so that it walks you step by step through the whole getting to Career Eco, registering for the days of the event, checking out the employer so you can do your research, uploading your resume, determining your schedule and when you want to try to talk to these different companies, and then really having a good time on the day of the event. So I'm going to go ahead and stop it there for the moment. Oh, one other thing I did want to mention, just to go back to Sarah's point about the report of bias. While we definitely have a lot of good things that happen at Expo, and the conversations and all of the things that happen are generally meant to be positive, we do have this year a report of bias link that will be on the Expo website that Sarah and Hillary were talking about, as well as in the ECAC system, where I was just showing you where these pathways are, so that if anything of concern happens during the event, you can report that there. It's not meant to be a punitive thing, or it's not meant to get people in trouble. It's really meant for students to have the opportunity to express concerns of something that may have happened so that we can hopefully rectify the situation. So definitely just know that that's there. And again, definitely I recommend starting with our pathway to get the whole process started. Now I'm going to stop sharing so that I can pass it on to the next. Well,
Michael did a wonderful job of outlining the tool And Sarah and Hills did a great job of giving you a heads up on sort of how to get started. But, you know, really the keys to having a successful experience is to start by doing your research and this pre-work to figure out what your plan is for your best expo. So you got to take some time and kind of go in and plan and figure out who's going to be on which day and what time they're going to be available to chat, and does that match up with your schedule and so forth. So really spend some time on the Expo website. We're putting that into the chat, so you have that link. You can go in, you can find it, you can do your homework. And then, you know, in terms of joining a room and engaging, obviously there's no handshake. So we're not going to be practicing or talking about those probably for some time to come. But you definitely need to think about, what is your introduction? What are you going to do in the chat for your introduction to the whole group? And then what will you do privately? And we're going to get into some of those things here in just a minute. You need to think about, what are your questions? What is that discussion that you want to have with the industry reps or the recruiters? And then how are you going to close it off? So those same things that you would do in person still apply, and you need to be mindful that there's lots of people, and you can't you know, dominate a corporate person, a recruiter for, you know, hours on end, right? Because there's lots of people. So you want to be mindful of what you're going to do, be pretty tactical, have it planned out, and figure out that exit strategy and that closure, so that you can get to your next appointment. So with that, I think we are going to talk about the private chat. Enrique.
Awesome. Thank you, Anna. All right. So in the private chat scenario that Michael had set up for you, there's definitely some things to consider once you get in there. So there are the things you need to consider about yourself are your attributes, and being prepared to be able to talk about those or chat about those. Definitely keeping it brief when starting an introduction, so that you can get your information out pretty quickly. Speak confidently and clearly, and then always remember to smile. No matter what's going on, that smile makes everybody else smile, and it just makes everybody feel like, you know what, it's going to be okay. As awkward as this virtual space is, we're all awkward in this together. So some of the content to consider when doing your private chat introduction is definitely your first and last name, your major, the year you are in school, the objective, like an objective that you may have, as well as like what you're seeking. So are you seeking a co-op or an internship or maybe even a full-time? And then in order to transition into the conversation and allow the recruiters to kind of get the cue of, hey, all right, we're going to start this engagement, lead with a question. So in the private chat, and you're in that one-on-one setting, this is a great time to have all this information. But know that, let's say you go into a main chat room and there's everybody there waiting. Then really the things that you want to be able to post in that space is just your first name, your last name, and your major. That way it's there, it's noticeable, and other people can see, and it's like your introduction into that main chat space. But for sure, when you're in that private chat, have all that information ready, be confident in your delivery, and know that when you speak clearly with them and confidently, that they'll be able to respond to the questions that you have, and y'all can start that experience and that engagement.
So let's talk questions, discussion, and closure. So as you're in this main chat room, and after the introduction, there should be some time to visit with the recruiter. So in order to make the most of this time, it's really good to prepare some questions ahead of time, either about for the company in particular or for companies in general. So do your research and do your best to stand out. you don't want to ask a company something that is really obvious, like, do you have a manufacturing plant in Austin? You should probably have done your homework to know that ahead of time, right? So you want to ask something more specific about, tell me about this kind of thing that you do, or I'm interested in this kind of work. What can you tell me about that? So you want to be a little bit strategic in the questions that you ask to show that you are interested, that you have done some work, and that you understand a little bit about what they do. It's not the expectation that you have a very clear understanding of what that company does and all the kinds of work that they do, or what an engineer does on a daily basis, but some basic level is really important. Get your questions answered, but you have to be respectful of the time. Remember, there's a lot of people, and just like you would in person, you don't want to monopolize the conversation too much. You want to get, again, be tactical, get your questions answered, and then figure out how you can do some follow-up, maybe if you have more questions, being mindful that there are other folks that want to have conversations, and being respectful of the recruiter's time. So think about some of the questions that you might ask. And, look, we all learn from each other. So are there questions that you think would be good? We could share those in the chat so everybody could benefit. Again, remember to thank the recruiters for being there. Thank them for their time. Thank them for their attention. Put yourself for a moment in the recruiter's shoes. Imagine talking about what you do in your company for 8 hours in a particular day. It's a lot. So be mindful, be respectful, and really thank them for all of that. In a private chat, remember to, it's important to, have some questions prepared, get your answers, thank them, and do all of those things that would make sure that you are making a good impression in this space.
Hello again. So the follow-up in terms of, I believe essentially what we're talking about is what to do after Expo. So when you're at Expo, whether it's in person or online, again, know that you're going to get different interactions with employers. There will be employers who will tell you maybe to follow up in different ways. Some of them will drive you to their website as a way of applying, or drive you to perhaps the ECAC system to apply for jobs or interview opportunities there. So definitely make sure you're also following up with anything that they've told you that's valuable to your job search. Also, it's a good idea to get their contact information if possible. I realize I'm saying this in front of employers, so I hope nobody winces too hard, but I'm about students trying to stay in contact with you if possible. So if you're talking to an employer at Expo, it can be nice to try to get contact information for follow-up questions, or I usually tell students that it's perfectly okay to try to connect with employers that you met at Expo on LinkedIn. Most, and from my experience, will be happy to connect with students. Not everybody will. Sometimes they're not always using LinkedIn a lot themselves. And then others may have their own criteria for how they connect with people. But there's nothing wrong with typically reaching out through LinkedIn to connect with somebody that you met. But what you want to do if you're using LinkedIn is make sure that you add a note or add a personal message when you try to connect on LinkedIn, to show that you've gone the extra step, and also to remind them how they know you. Let them know that you talked to them at the Engineering Expo and that you really enjoyed the conversation and that you want to connect through LinkedIn. That's a really good way to have that connection, and also to start building out your own LinkedIn connections. Also, one of the most important things that I really want to stress, because I hear this from some students, is there's sometimes the mindset that Expo is the beginning and the end of your job search. Like, it all starts and ends at Expo. If you didn't get an interview, if you didn't get a job, it's over. And that's really not at all true. Expo in many ways is kind of the beginning. And as some of you have seen, we've even had information sessions and job postings going on right now. So it even starts a little bit before Expo. And then Expo is this big event where you have all these employers and students coming together at once. And then I promise you, after Expo, there's a lot more activity. There are more information sessions, more jobs being posted, more activities, more things that employers will be doing for follow-up, and all of these different things. So just realize that this is the start, and maybe do something to kind of keep track of, you know, what employers did I talk to? What did they tell me that they need from me to follow up, et cetera, and go from there. The other slide that just popped up is our workshops that we have. I did show you briefly when I was showing you our system that we do have an events tab that you can click on, and then workshops is one of the things you can look at. We do have all of these workshops that are there, and well, sorry, we don't have all those workshops. That's a cut of when we were having workshops in person. But pretty much all of these workshops that you're seeing here exist now virtually. So they've been recorded or they've been redone in a Zoom environment, and they've been recorded there. So you can actually go to different workshops that we have on resume tips, on getting ready for Expo. We had Texas Instruments recently do a workshop for preparing for Expo as well. So you can check out all of those. They're recorded and easy to access for you to watch at any time.